Hey friends, how are you guys today? I hope you liked our introduction to this toxicity series. We're going to dive right in today. Our short chat is going to be about where toxicity is found. Not so much kind of what we talked about yesterday, but we're going to talk about actual places. I made it kind of clear that it's kind of everywhere, but with that, where are the most toxins found? And so I'm going to share my screen just for a fun little blurb here, or a fun little picture, just to give you guys a visual. So I ended our chat on this slide last time, and I'm going to start it for this one. So where are they? They're everywhere. So I'm not going to reiterate what I said last time, but I want to share just a little bit of those powerful, powerful areas that maybe you guys can empower yourselves with. Please note that when this is something that I dive into like in such big detail in the Conscious Detox, that I highly recommend that you join us in our group mentoring portion, because we're actually going to be taking off the last week of September, and we do so quarterly. So even if you're watching this anytime, it's always open for enrollment, but this is a subject that I literally drill in and really empower people with by really getting a grasp on their environment. Okay, but I'm going to give you guys three major places that have toxic material that's so potent that I'm going to tell you what systems they impact, so that you can go and explore and see if you are being exposed to some of this. Okay, so number one is actually glyphosate. If you don't know what glyphosate is, and this is gibberish to you, or you think you're not being exposed to glyphosate, I can tell you right now, you're wrong. Even I get exposed to glyphosate, because not every product that I buy am I guaranteed that it is not glyphosate, is not a product that has glyphosate on it. So what is it? So glyphosate is a pesticide or herbicide that is used on crops in the US. I live in Canada, but that means nothing. Many of my products come from the US, even if they are organic. Now, if they are organic, they likely do not have glyphosate. But note that most people do not eat organic material for everything. And glyphosate is the most used herbicide and pesticide in the United States. And if you go anytime in Canada, especially, anytime in the winter, which I'm from Northern Canada. So if you are in Canada and you're in Northern Canada, you definitely don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables throughout the year. So not only are we, first of all, eating nutrients that have been depleted because the travel time, so something's been picked after 3 days, its nutrient capacity is almost nil, but we're also ingesting a herbicide and pesticide that is actually so volatile that it will completely destroy the gut wall. There are many studies that show this. There are many, many court cases that have allotted millions to billions of dollars because it causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Not only that, it actually affects cognitive impairment in children, including possible links to autism, ADD, ADHD, and many other illnesses like Alzheimer's that have to do with cognitive impairment or function. Okay, so this is a major one. Anything that is linked to the microbiome or your gut that is going to destroy it will destroy your health completely. And we're going to dive into that in a couple of days as to why, maybe even tomorrow. Now, the number two toxin that I want to share, because that's more in the chemical world, I'm going to share the toxin of live toxicity. Okay, so actually I'm going to maybe share 4 toxins, which is going to be nice. I'm going to share the mycological toxicity, okay, or mitotoxics. So mitotoxics are live toxins. They can be in the form of fungi, bacteria, or viruses. There's also a few other antigens now, I believe that they're called. Anyways, that's not here nor there, but we are exposed to these and we have them living in and on us throughout our lives. Unfortunately, when we expose ourselves, or when our bodies are slightly depleted in nutritional deficiencies, and maybe have had other exposures to things like glyphosate, or we eat sugar, And that's actually the #1 toxin. Actually, sugar, we'll call sugar and mitotoxins one entity, not because they are the same, but because one makes the other grow faster and then they feed each other. Sugar is actually one of the largest toxins on the planet, and yet we consume it daily, multiple times a day. There are free talks about that all over the world, but it is absolutely, to me, disgusting when you see things like high fructose corn syrup, anything that has glucose or fructose, and you look at these substances and their impact on the human body. Okay, so now we have sugar, which has now been actually almost derived from corn in some ways to make a new liquid sugar, as they call it. If you ever see a piece of your food or you're looking at the label trying to decipher what's on it, which I'm going to do a mini series on reading labels eventually. But when you look at it and it says high fructose corn syrup or liquid sugar, that's what it is. It's high fructose corn syrup. Now, you have to think some of that is neurotoxic. Some of it is actually double as sweet or much sweeter, and it's highly addictive. Now, we consume it more because of this reason. Now, companies have actually put so much of it into our product that recently, maybe not that recent, last 20 years or so, they had to elevate, they had to raise the consumption, the day-to-day consumption of sugar in our food guide for us to, because it was much lower than 52 grams of sugar. And now they've actually had to raise it because nobody seemed to be able to maintain anything lower, which is not what should be happening, but that's a whole other story. So now let's link that to mitotoxins. So mitotoxins are these bugs, many of them you'll probably know, like Candida. Candida is a mitotoxin. It means it's alive. And so we have toxic reactions to Candida, and it actually creates an environment in our bodies that allow for disease to proliferate, it allows for disease to grow. Okay, so that's toxin #2. I'm sure you understand that. So I've talked about chemical toxin. I've talked about a toxin that we have in our day-to-day. So any refined sugar and mitotoxins, which is any live thing. I'm going to talk briefly about medications because, well, I like to talk about taboo subjects. And I am going to talk about all of them in a sense that I'm going to umbrella that any kind of medication you put in your body, whether it has a very helpful benefit, it will have to be detoxified because of the fillers, the carriers, and everything else that's in there. It's a chemical too. So those are my 3 chats. So now when we talk about it and I envelop medications, there's always a taboo subject, so I have to be a little careful with how I word it. And the thing is that there are certain situations where you will need medication, and that is okay. And that's something that I want to get. Our doctors do the best that they can. Those medications were created to try to help us, I think. Some days I question that too. But the idea of it is actually that they're trying to alleviate a symptom, take away your pain, help with your diabetes, help with your COPD. Some of these medications are life-saving. So I understand that, especially the ones with heart disease. And so I want to just share that even though they have, and then we'll actually just touch lightly on vaccines. I don't really like to talk about them that much, and I talked about them just briefly on the other one, is that whenever you put ingest, or topically touch, okay, anything that harms the tissue is considered a toxic material. So just be aware of that. So even though it's alleviating a symptom that it might be absolutely necessary, it's really not often meant, except for in the case of heart disease, always meant for long-term use. And even in the case of heart disease, when embracing a lifestyle medicine program, studies show over and over and over again that people shift into often not needing them. Okay, so these are just 3 areas. Now, if you are more interested in learning more about that, there are the conscious detox will actually dive into so many of these areas, but not only that, you'll actually be able to know through 5 very detailed self-assessments where you were exposed to, because it will be a symptomatic assessments that will teach you this, what you were most exposed to in your life. It's pretty cool. Anyways, hopefully you'll join us there, but join us tomorrow on our next chat.